In the opening days of July 1863, two formidable armies clashed in the quaint, unassuming town of Gettysburg, nestled in the rolling hills of southern Pennsylvania. What commenced as a minor encounter between Union cavalry patrols and Confederate foot soldiers foraging for provisions rapidly intensified, spiraling into one of the most ferocious and devastating confrontations of the American Civil War. The once peaceful fields and orchards surrounding this small community, known for its quiet charm and rural simplicity, became the stage for a monumental struggle that would claim thousands of lives and alter the course of the nation's history. As the opposing forces collided, the air grew thick with the acrid smoke of musket fire and the deafening roar of artillery, while the courage and desperation of soldiers on both sides transformed Gettysburg into a crucible of sacrifice and resolve. The triumph of the Union forces in the Battle of Gettysburg ultimately delivered a significant surge in morale for the northern states, while decisively thwarting Confederate General Robert E. Lee's audacious strategy to penetrate northern territory. Celebrated as a pivotal moment in the American Civil War, this fierce clash, fought from July 1st to July 3rd, 1863, in the rolling hills of Pennsylvania, marked a critical juncture that shifted the war's momentum. The battle's significance was magnified later that year when President Abraham Lincoln journeyed to the hallowed grounds of Gettysburg to consecrate its cemetery with his immortal Gettysburg Address, a speech that not only honored the fallen but also redefined the war's purpose, emphasizing liberty and unity. The engagement at Gettysburg, with its staggering toll of over 50,000 casualties, underscored the resilience of the Union Army and exposed the vulnerabilities in Lee's overstretched Confederate forces, forever altering the course of the conflict. In the early summer of 1863, after masterfully guiding his Army of Northern Virginia to a breathtaking triumph at the Battle of Chancellorsville, General Robert E. Lee stood at the zenith of his military prestige. The victory, a testament to his tactical brilliance despite being outnumbered, had solidified his reputation as a formidable commander and instilled a surge of confidence within the Confederate ranks. Emboldened by this success, Lee seized the moment to propose an audacious plan to the Confederate leadership in Richmond. He advocated for a daring invasion of Pennsylvania, a strategic gamble aimed at carrying the war into the heart of Union territory. His objective was clear: to deliver a decisive blow against the Army of the Potomac on northern soil, potentially shattering Union morale, disrupting their political resolve, and bolstering the South's chances for foreign recognition. With his troops battle-hardened and morale soaring, Lee's vision was to exploit the momentum of Chancellorsville, turning the tide of the Civil War by striking at the North's heartland in a campaign that would test the limits of his military genius. General Robert E. Lee repeatedly expressed unwavering confidence in the indomitable spirit of his Confederate troops, asserts Jennifer Murray, a distinguished history professor at Oklahoma State University and author of On a Great Battlefield, The Making, Management, and Memory of Gettysburg National Military Park, 1933 to 2013. Lee's bold strategy hinged on a daring incursion into Union territory, a calculated gamble intended to shatter Northern morale. He believed that a decisive Confederate victory on Union soil would erode public support for President Abraham Lincoln's war policies, compelling Northern citizens to question the costly conflict. By striking deep into Pennsylvania in the summer of 1863, Lee aimed not only to disrupt Union supply lines but also to inspire a wave of anti-war sentiment that could pressure the Lincoln administration into seeking peace. This audacious plan, rooted in Lee's faith in his army's resilience and tactical prowess, underscored his determination to shift the war's momentum at the pivotal Battle of Gettysburg. On June 28, as General Robert E. Lee's Confederate forces advanced through the rolling hills of Pennsylvania, President Abraham Lincoln made the pivotal decision to relieve Major General Joseph Hooker from his post as commander of the Army of the Potomac. In his place, Lincoln appointed Major General George Gordon Meade, a seasoned and resolute officer known for his tactical acumen. This shift marked the third command change for the beleaguered Army of the Potomac in 1863, a year fraught with strategic challenges and mounting pressure to counter the audacious Confederate incursion into Northern territory. Meade's appointment came at a critical juncture, as the Union braced for a decisive confrontation that would soon unfold at Gettysburg, testing the new commander's ability to unify and lead his forces against Lee's formidable army. The Union soldiers are confident in themselves, Murray says, but they're a little more questionable about their leadership, and about this string of commanders coming in again and again. Along with the news of the command change, Lee soon learned that the Union troops were closer than he expected them to be. Lee's cavalry, led by J.E.B. Stuart, is out sort of joyriding and not doing a really good job of bringing intelligence over to Lee, Murray points out. Abandoning his plan to drive deeper into Pennsylvania toward Harrisburg, Lee ordered his army to concentrate at Cashtown, a tiny town located about 8 miles west of Gettysburg. With nearly a dozen roads leading into and out of town, Gettysburg was a key destination for moving troops. On June 30th, a few Confederate divisions headed there in search of shoes and other supplies, and encountered 2 brigades of Union cavalry. While the majority of the Army of the Potomac remained stationed in Maryland, adhering to President Lincoln's directive to maintain a protective shield between Washington, D.C., and the advancing Confederate forces, its cavalry units pressed forward, tirelessly scouting the rugged terrain to gather critical intelligence on the enemy's movements and positions. Having briefly withdrawn to the small hamlet of Cashtown to regroup and reassess their strategy, the Confederate troops, under the command of General Robert E. Lee, resolved to return to the pivotal crossroads town of Gettysburg on July 1, 1863. Driven by the urgent need to secure vital supplies, food, ammunition, and medical provisions to sustain their campaign, they steeled themselves for a potential clash with the Union forces already converging in the area. This decision, born of necessity and ambition, set the stage for a confrontation that would escalate into one of the most defining battles of the American Civil War, as both sides recognized the strategic importance of Gettysburg's network of roads and its proximity to key supply routes. The Confederates, battle-hardened yet weary, moved with cautious determination, fully aware that their advance might ignite a fierce struggle against a determined Union adversary prepared to defend northern soil at all costs. The initial volley of the battle echoes through the crisp morning air shortly after 7 a.m., historian Murray recounts with a measured tone. Neither General George G. Meade, commanding the Union forces, nor General Robert E. Lee, leading the Confederates, had pinpointed Gettysburg on their maps as the chosen battleground. The clash ignites almost by chance, a fleeting encounter between scouting parties that spirals into a full-scale conflagration. On that first day of combat, July 1, 1863, the Confederate forces, clad in their butternut and gray uniforms, seemed poised for yet another triumph. With relentless momentum, they pushed the blue-coated Union troops back, forcing them into a chaotic retreat through the narrow streets and past the modest homes of Gettysburg. Yet, despite the Confederate advance, the Union soldiers, weary but resolute, clung tenaciously to the elevated terrain south of the town, securing their position along Cemetery Ridge. This strategic high ground, with its sweeping views of the rolling Pennsylvania countryside, would prove pivotal in the grueling days of battle that followed, shaping the course of one of the most consequential engagements of the American Civil War. On July 2nd, General Robert E. Lee aimed to capitalize on his tactical momentum, orchestrating formidable attacks against both flanks of the Union's entrenched lines at Gettysburg. The reluctance and indecision of his subordinate commanders, however, hindered the Confederate advance, granting the Union critical time to bolster their ranks with additional reinforcements. These fresh troops fortified the Federal defenses, erecting a resilient bulwark that effectively blunted the ferocity of the Confederate offensive. The day's brutal engagements, marked by relentless charges and desperate counterattacks across the rocky Pennsylvania terrain, resulted in over 20,000 soldiers killed, wounded, or captured, rendering the second day of the Battle of Gettysburg one of the American Civil War's most harrowing and blood-soaked chapters. The landscape, scarred by cannon fire and littered with the fallen, bore witness to the staggering cost of the conflict, as both armies grappled for supremacy in a pivotal struggle that would shape the course of the nation's history. Lee tried again on July 3rd, believing his invincible army could triumph with just one more push. But the attack, by fewer than 15,000 Confederate soldiers led by George Pickett, was a catastrophic failure, says Murray, with nearly 5,600 rebel soldiers killed, wounded, or captured. The following day, Lee began preparations to move his army south, with Meade in pursuit. Ultimately, with the Confederates dug in along the Potomac, Meade decided against an attack, giving Lee's forces time to cross the river back into Virginia and earning Lincoln's ire. The Battle of Gettysburg exacted a grievous toll on both Union and Confederate forces, but the Southern Army endured far more enduring and devastating losses. In total, approximately 28,000 Confederate soldiers were either killed, wounded, or unaccounted for, representing a staggering one-third of General Robert E. Lee's entire fighting force. Among the fallen were numerous seasoned officers and some of Lee's most reliable commanders, whose absence would haunt the Confederacy's future campaigns. The staggering casualties crippled the Army of Northern Virginia, sapping its strength and morale in ways that would prove irreparable. While Lee, a brilliant tactician, would later orchestrate additional triumphs in the South below the Mason-Dixon line, the catastrophic losses at Gettysburg shattered any realistic prospect of mounting another offensive into Northern territory. The battle not only marked a turning point in the Civil War but also left an indelible scar on the Confederate war effort, as the depleted ranks struggled to recover from the bloodshed on those fateful Pennsylvania fields in July 1863. Conversely, the Battle of Gettysburg revitalized the Union's determination to prevail in the Civil War, particularly when paired with General Ulysses S. Grant's nearly concurrent triumph at Vicksburg in the western theater of the conflict. This dual victory bolstered Northern morale and shifted the war's momentum decisively in favor of the Union. Mere days after the clash at Gettysburg concluded, the Philadelphia Inquirer's bold headline proclaimed, "Waterloo surpassed," notes historian Margaret Murray. Within a short span, the people of Philadelphia and the broader Northern populace began likening the Battle of Gettysburg to the monumental 1815 defeat of Napoleon at Waterloo, a conflict that fundamentally altered the geopolitical landscape of Western Europe. This comparison underscored the profound significance of Gettysburg, not only as a tactical victory but as a turning point that rekindled hope and resolve across the Union, galvanizing support for the war effort and cementing the battle's place in history as a defining moment in the struggle to preserve a nation. The fervor surrounding Gettysburg's outcome was palpable in northern cities, where newspapers and public orations drew parallels to historic victories, framing the battle as a beacon of Union resilience and a testament to the leadership of figures like Major General George Meade, whose strategic acumen at Gettysburg thwarted General Robert E. Lee's audacious invasion of the North. 3 days following the ferocious clash, the front page of the Philadelphia Chronicle boldly proclaimed, "Waterloo surpassed," according to historian Eleanor Murray. Mere days after the cannons fell silent, the citizens of Philadelphia and the broader Northern populace were already likening the Battle of Gettysburg to the monumental engagement that toppled Napoleon Bonaparte, fundamentally altering the geopolitical landscape of Western Europe. For the Union soldiers, halting General Robert E. Lee's audacious incursion into Northern territory and decisively overcoming Confederate forces on their own soil delivered a vital surge of confidence. This renewed vigor was crucial, fortifying their resolve as they braced for the grueling, protracted campaigns that lay ahead in the relentless struggle of the Civil War. The victory at Gettysburg, fought from July 1st to July 3rd, 1863, not only repelled a daring Confederate offensive but also marked a turning point, emboldening the Union with a sense of destiny and purpose. The rolling fields of Pennsylvania, now hallowed by the sacrifice of thousands, became a symbol of resilience, galvanizing Northern communities and soldiers alike to press forward in their quest to preserve the United States and abolish the scourge of slavery. In November 1863, the confrontation at Gettysburg gained profound historical weight when President Abraham Lincoln delivered his iconic Gettysburg Address. In a remarkably concise oration, lasting mere minutes, Lincoln hallowed the blood-soaked battleground, paid solemn tribute to the fallen soldiers' ultimate sacrifice, and recast the Civil War's purpose. No longer was it merely a fight to preserve the Union. It became a sacred crusade to redefine the nation itself, a beacon of liberty and equality. As Lincoln eloquently proclaimed, that we here highly resolve that these honored dead shall not have perished in vain, that this nation, blessed by divine providence, shall experience a renewed birth of liberty, and that a government rooted in the will of the people, governed by the people, and dedicated to the service of the people, shall endure eternally. His words, delivered on that hallowed Pennsylvania field, resonated far beyond the moment, crystallizing the war's moral imperative and etching into history a vision of a unified nation reborn through sacrifice. The address, though brief, wove together threads of grief, hope, and resolve, transforming Gettysburg into a symbol of national redemption and a testament to the enduring power of democratic ideals.